I still remember the night she showed up at our doorstep, mascara streaked down her cheeks, suitcase dragging behind her like a broken limb. He left, she whispered, just 2 words. But they cracked open something in me, sisterly instinct. Maybe without asking a single question. I opened my arms and let her in. Her name was Rachel. My younger sister by 3 years. She was always the beautiful one, the wild one. The one who lived like emotions were currency and drama was air. And I was a steady one. The boring older sister with a husband, a job, a mortgage and a deep belief in second chances. That's why when Rachel's 5-year relationship collapsed, I didn't hesitate. My husband Jason and I had just remodeled the guest room. She could stay as long as she needed. I told her, we're family, we take care of each other. Rachel didn't say much. She just nodded, wiped her face, and walked in. The first few weeks were manageable. She mostly kept to herself some nights. I'd hear her crying softly behind her closed door. I'd leave a cup of chamomile tea by her room in the morning. She never said thank you. But I didn't mind. Heartbreak makes people forget their manners. Jason was patient about it all. At first, you sure she doesn't have anywhere else to go? He asked once. Not unkindly. I shrugged. She needs time, she's just lost everything. But soon, the house changed, the air inside became tense. Rachel started running into Jason more often when I wasn't around. Casual at first, asking him to fix her car battery. Pick up something from the store. I didn't think much of it. Why would I? Then came the little jabs. You've really let yourself go, Claire, she said one morning, eyeing my worn pajama pants as she sat on the kitchen counter in one of my silk robes. Jason must be a saint, I laughed it off. But it stung up one night. As I climbed into bed beside Jason, I caught a whiff of something sweet, my perfume. But it wasn't me wearing it. I hadn't used that bottle in weeks. I stared at him. Were you in our bathroom? I asked. He looked confused. No. Why? I shrugged it off. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe grief was making Rachel forget boundaries. Or maybe I was just being paranoid. But things got worse. Jason grew distant, distracted. He started coming home late from work, claiming meetings and emergencies. When I tried to talk, he brushed me off. You've been tense, Claire, he said. Maybe talk to someone. I was tense. My home felt invaded. My marriage felt strained. And Rachel? She became more radiant by the day. Lipstick at breakfast, gym clothes that clung too tightly, compliments that landed just a little too hard. Jason's so thoughtful, she'd say with a smile. You're lucky. Then one Friday night, Jason didn't come home at all. I called, texted, nothing. When he finally walked in Saturday morning, I was sitting at the table, waiting. Where were you? He looked tired. Don't do this, Claire. Do what? Pretend like everything's normal when it's not. My heart pounded. What are you talking about? And then he said the words that turned my world inside out. Rachel told me about the affair. My mouth opened. No sound came out. I felt the blood drain from my face. What affair? She said she saw messages between you and some guy named Brandon. I couldn't breathe. Brandon, my coworker? We collaborated on a few projects, a handful of polite emails, nothing more. Are you serious? I asked. Jason nodded, eyes dull. She showed me screenshots. My world tilted. I stood, hands shaking. She's lying. Jason said nothing. And in that silence, I realized something I refused to believe for weeks. My sister wasn't just broken. She was dangerous. I barely slept that night. Jason didn't touch me, didn't look at me. He rolled to the edge of the bed and turned off the light like I was some stranger he couldn't bring himself to confront. I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning. Brandon, screenshots. What had she shown him? The next morning, I left early for work. I didn't even try to talk to Jason again. I couldn't stand the coldness in his eyes. My thoughts were all over the place as I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen. I finally emailed Brandon, keeping it casual. Hey, just curious, have you noticed anything strange with our work emails or messages lately? He responded 10 minutes later. Not really. Why? I didn't want to explain, not over email. I texted him instead. Call me when you get a second. Just something weird going on. Later that day, during lunch, I finally pulled up the courage to ask Rachel directly. I found her lounging on the couch, painting her toenails like she hadn't just set fire to my life. You told Jason I was having an affair. She didn't flinch. She looked up and smiled and said, well, I saw the way you were always laughing at your phone when you were talking to Brandon. What was I supposed to think? My throat tightened. So you made it up. I didn't make it up. I just connected the dots. Connected the dots. I repeated, stunned. You told my husband I was cheating. Rachel, she shrugged. Honestly, Claire, I thought you were. And if you weren't, maybe now's a good time to think about why someone might believe you were. I couldn't breathe. You have no idea what you've done. She capped the nail polish and stood. You're welcome, by the way. He deserved to know what kind of woman he married. Something snapped in me. I reached for my phone. Opened the security camera app. I hadn't checked the hallway camera in weeks, but it had been running. We kept it there mostly for safety after a break-in on the block last year. I pulled up the timeline. My fingers shook as I scrubbed through footage. Days blurred into nights, until finally there. A clip from last Thursday, just after I left for my Pilates class, Rachel, walking into her bedroom. Staying in there. 20-6 minutes alone, I scanned the following footage. She walked back out holding something, my phone. I knew I hadn't left it behind, but it wasn't in my purse that day either. I had just assumed I left it on the kitchen counter. But maybe she had taken it. I checked another camera, our living room. She sat with it, scrolling, tapping, laughing. She had gone through my messages, my photos, probably even forwarded a few to herself. That's how she got the screenshots. That's how she twisted a few friendly work texts into a false affair. When I confronted Jason again that night, I tried to show him the footage. Look, she was in our room with my phone. He barely looked. Even if that's true, Claire, why would she lie? Because she wanted you. That's what I wanted to scream. But I couldn't, not yet. I had no real proof, just a sick feeling deep in my gut, growing bigger every time I saw the way she looked at him. The way she touched his arm when she laughed. The way her robe slipped a little lower around him than it ever did around me. That weekend, I started checking things more carefully. Her laundry, my perfume was on her clothes. My lipstick, half used in her makeup bag. My hairbrush, strands of her hair now tangled with mine. She was becoming me, replacing me. But the worst moment came Sunday night. Jason had been distant all day. I found him in the garage, pretending to fix the toolbox he hadn't touched in months. I tried again gently this time. Jason, you know me. You know me. He didn't look up. I used to think I did. My heart cracked. When I walked back into the kitchen, Rachel was there, stirring a pot like she belonged. She smiled sweetly. The picture of domestic bliss. Jason likes his pasta, she said. I thought I'd make his favorite. I wanted to scream, throw the pot across the floor, tell her to get out. But she had planted the lie too deep. And I realized something terrifying. Rachel wasn't just staying with us. She was trying to replace me. It's a strange kind of grief to mourn something that's still standing. My marriage hadn't ended, but it no longer felt alive. My home hadn't crumbled, but it no longer felt like mine. That night, as I lay awake, I scrolled through old photos of Jason and me. Our wedding day, my veil tangled in wind, his hand catching it with a grin. Our honeymoon in Colorado, me asleep on his shoulder during a train ride through the mountains. My birthday last year, cake smeared on my face, his laugh loud and unfiltered. We had a life. We had love, and in just 2 months, my sister had poisoned all of it. I started keeping notes, every strange moment, every suspicious shift in his behavior. I made backups of the security footage. I even began recording my own conversations with Rachel. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed proof. Proof for Jason, proof for myself. Proof that I wasn't losing my mind. One evening, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. I stood just beyond the doorway, out of sight. She's been acting paranoid, Jason said. She's probably ashamed, Rachel answered smoothly. Guilt is that. He sighed. I don't know what to believe anymore. It was that tiny splinter of doubt she planted, growing deeper. I couldn't let this continue. So I called Emily, my closest friend since college. We hadn't talked much lately. Jason thought I was too dependent on her, and Rachel had been keeping me emotionally off balance. But that night, I needed someone who knew the real me. I met her at a quiet cafe. I laid everything out, Rachel's arrival, the fair lie, Jason's withdrawal, the perfume, the texts. Emily listened without interrupting. When I finished, her jaw was clenched. Claire, this is psychotic. She's not just lying, she's manipulating both of you. For what, Jason? I nodded, throat dry. You have to get her out of that house. I can't, I whispered. Not without making it worse. Jason he still believes her. Emily leaned in. Then let's prove she's lying. That night, we made a plan. I'd tell Rachel that I was meeting someone for lunch, someone she didn't know. I'd leave my phone behind on purpose. Emily would come to the house under the pretense of dropping off a gift for me, something only Jason would believe she'd do. The goal: catch Rachel off guard, see what she was doing when she thought no one was watching. The next day, I followed the plan exactly. I left my phone on the table, keys in my purse, and told Rachel I was running to meet a former client. Across town, she barely looked up. Okay, have fun. Meanwhile, Emily waited 3 blocks away, parked with a notepad and her camera lens. She knocked on the door 30 minutes later. Jason answered, and Rachel appeared seconds later wearing my favorite dress. My God, Emily told me later. She looked like she belonged there. They invited her in. Rachel made coffee, sat close to Jason, giggled at something he said. She even touched his hand briefly, but just enough. Emily snapped 3 photos from her lap. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, but something that evening. I confronted Rachel again. You wore my dress. She blinked innocently. What dress? You know which one, she smirked. Well, someone had to use it. You haven't worn it in months. I felt a chill race down my spine. She didn't deny it. She didn't even pretend to feel bad. You're trying to take him from me, I said quietly. Claire, she said, stepping closer. Her voice syrupy. If you really think your marriage is so fragile that I could ruin it just by existing here, maybe the problem isn't me. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I just lay there and planned. Not revenge. Not confrontation. Something quieter. Smarter. Permanent. The next morning, I smiled. I didn't feel like smiling, but I had read somewhere that the best way to throw off a manipulator is to act like you're already 5 steps ahead. So I made pancakes. Jason looked at me curiously as I plated his breakfast. You're in a good mood, he said, cautiously. Just tired of being tense, I replied, buttering the edges with practiced hands. It's exhausting being suspicious all the time. So I'm done. Rachel looked up from her phone across the table, her brow furrowed, eyes narrowing in that way she did when she didn't trust the peace. I could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. Jason relaxed a little, though. I like this version of you. I wanted to scream. You used to love the real version. But I said nothing, not yet. Instead, I reached out to a friend who owed me a favor. Grace, a tech-savvy coworker who once helped me retrieve deleted files for a client. I didn't ask her to hack anything. I just told her I needed help extracting every piece of digital data I had, cloud backups, photo archives, old texts from Rachel before she moved in. She agreed. You think there's something you missed? I know there is, I whispered. The same afternoon, Grace called me back. Claire, there's a video. My stomach flipped. Of what? I'm sending it to your laptop. Watch it when you're alone. I excused myself to run an errand and drove to a nearby parking lot. Tethering my laptop to my phone, the video was grainy, obviously from a security cam, my own living room camera. The one Rachel insisted was creepy and had begged me to disable months ago. It was dated 2 weeks earlier. Jason had just come home from work. He looked tired, tossed his keys, collapsed on the couch. Rachel entered seconds later, holding 2 glasses of wine. She sat next to him, too close. She placed a hand on his thigh. He looked surprised, then awkward, uncomfortable. He moved away. She leaned in and whispered something into his ear. The audio didn't catch it, but Jason's reaction was clear. He stood up quickly, angry. I told you don't, his voice thundered, faintly captured. He stormed out of frame. Rachel remained seated, smirking. I paused the video. The pressure behind my eyes built until I couldn't hold it anymore. Tears burst down my cheeks. Relief, betrayal, rage, grief all tangled into something thick and hot that made me tremble. Jason hadn't made a move, but Rachel had, and he hadn't told me. I needed to know why. That evening, I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Jason noticed. You okay? He asked after dinner. I nodded. You seem distant. Maybe I'm just tired of pretending, I said softly, echoing her exact words back to him. His brow creased. What does that mean? I met his eyes. I saw the video. His face drained of color. What video? Living room camera. 2 weeks ago. You, Rachel. Wine. Her hand. Your reaction. He sank into the chair. You didn't do anything, I continued. But you also didn't tell me. Jason looked down at his hands. I didn't want to make things worse. I thought if I just ignored it she'd stop. She didn't stop. Jason. He looked up. Shame burning through him. I didn't know what to do. You should have told me. We sat in silence. Then I told him everything. The texts, the perfume, the strange timing of her movement, the whispers, the manipulation. Jason listened, his hands shaking. I thought you were pulling away, he finally said. I thought maybe you'd stop loving me. She made you think that. He nodded and I let her. I didn't hug him. I didn't forgive him. But I knew we had a chance if we acted now. I looked him in the eyes. She has to go. He nodded. But Rachel didn't take it well. Rachel was in the middle of folding my laundry when I told her. Hey, I began, keeping my tone neutral. We think it's time for you to move out. Her hands paused mid-fold. She blinked, slowly, like she hadn't heard me right. What? You've been here a while now. Things are getting complicated. It's best if we give each other space. She straightened up, scoffing. You're kidding, right? After everything I've been through. After I gave up my apartment because you said I could stay here, I never said forever. Jason stood silently behind me, arms crossed, lips pressed into a tight line. Rachel's gaze bounced from me to him and back. So this is a joint decision. You're kicking me out together now. No one's kicking anyone out, Jason said, Keeping his voice calm, we're just asking for boundaries. Rachel laughed a bitter, hollow sound. Wow, so now I'm a problem after everything I've helped you through. Helped? I asked, unable to stop myself. You nearly ended our marriage. Her eyes flared. What are you even talking about? I turned to Jason, show her. He hesitated, but he took out his phone, pulled up the video Grace had sent me, and held it out to her. Rachel grabbed it, watched silently as the footage played. When it ended, she slowly handed it back. And then she smiled. No panic. No apology. Just a slow, venomous smirk. I was drunk, she said with a shrug. It was harmless. He didn't seem to mind. Jason clenched his fists. Don't speak. For me? Rachel turned back to me. You really think I'm the villain here, Claire? I've seen your marriage. You're not the happy couple you think you are. He looked bored long before I ever stepped foot in this house. That doesn't give you the right to lie. Or sabotage us. She tilted her head. Funny. You always act so perfect, always a responsible sister, always a stable one. But, deep down, you're terrified. You know if he had someone else, someone less uptight, less needy, he might actually smile again. My breath caught. But Jason stepped forward. Enough. You don't get to stay here and disrespect my wife in her home. Rachel's eyes darkened. Oh. Now I'm not welcome. You were never welcome. To cross that line, I said quietly. I gave you my couch, my food, my life, I added. And you gave me betrayal. Something shifted in her then. Her shoulders slumped. Her mouth parted slightly, like she wanted to explain but couldn't find the words for a second. I saw the girl I used to share bunk beds with. The one who cried when she broke our mom's vase. The one who once held my hand through our parents' divorce. But that version of her didn't live here anymore. Jason left the room. I stayed. You need to go, I said, softly but firmly. When? She whispered. By the weekend. She nodded. Then walked past me like I was invisible. That night, Jason and I barely spoke. We weren't okay yet, but we were no longer fractured by someone else's poison. There was still damaged trust that had to be rebuilt, but there was also space to heal. 2 days later, Rachel was gone. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't leave a note. She just vanished like a storm that had passed through, flattening everything in its path. I walked through the house, checking each room. It felt quiet, heavy, like the echo of something sharp had just been silenced. In the guest room, the sheets were crumpled. One of my blouses was still hanging in the closet, stretched to the shoulders. My lavender candle was burned halfway through. The scent lingered, bittersweet. I lit it again, not to remember her, but to take something back. My home. My peace. My truth. The silence after Rachel's departure was louder than her presence had ever been. I thought I'd feel relief the second she walked out, but what I felt instead was a strange ache. Like my chest had been stretched around something too big and now it sagged with the emptiness. Jason tried to fill the gap with kindness. He cleaned the house without being asked. He left coffee by my bedside each morning. He started texting me again during the day. Small things, a meme, a thinking of you, a reminder that we hadn't completely lost each other. But I wasn't ready to forgive him. Not yet. I didn't cheat. He told me one evening, sitting beside me on the porch, I need you to believe that. I do believe that, I said, watching the sun dip beneath the rooftops. But you let her get too close. You let her speak for me, for us. You let her twist things. He nodded slowly, shame written all over his face. I should have said something the first time she crossed the line. I looked down at my hands. Why didn't you? He hesitated because part of me thought it was harmless. Like if I ignored it, it would stop. I didn't want to start a war between sisters. And honestly, I didn't know how to talk to you about it. Things were already tense. I took a long breath. But that silence nearly broke us. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. I want to fix this, Claire. Fixing it meant canceling real conversations. Sitting with the uncomfortable truth that even though he didn't physically cheat, he allowed a boundary to dissolve until it nearly swallowed us whole. I was hurt. But I wasn't done. Jason and I scheduled therapy. It was awkward at first, stiff. I didn't cry in front of the therapist. I didn't want to give that part of me up yet. But I did speak honestly, and Jason did too. He admitted he felt lonely. Even before Rachel moved in, I admitted I'd buried myself in work and keeping the house spotless. In playing hostess to keep the tension from showing, we both had created space. Rachel just slipped through the cracks we'd left open. I think I wanted her to see me, Jason said during one session. Because I didn't think you were looking anymore. That hit harder than I expected. Because he wasn't wrong, we become transactional, routine, comfortable. Yes, but also emotionally distant. I had stopped asking him how he felt. He had stopped telling me. Rachel, in her twisted way, found that weakness and exploited it. But she didn't create it. We did. One night, 3 weeks later, I found an envelope on my pillow. Jason's handwriting inside was a letter. Claire, I wish I could go back to the moment Rachel whispered to me and hit pause. Not because I would have stopped her sooner, but because I would have run straight to you. I let fear keep me silent. I let guilt keep me distant. I should have been your partner first. You gave your sister a home. I didn't protect ours. But I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. I love you. G clutched the letter and cried in our bed. He didn't ask if I'd read it, but I slipped my hand into his that night as we fell asleep. That was answer enough for now. A month passed, then two, then came a text from an unknown number. Claire, I know you probably hate me, but I need to talk, please, Rachel. I stared at the screen. Pulse ticking in my throat. Jason walked into the room. Everything okay? I showed him the message. He didn't speak, but his face tightened. I'm not replying, I said. He nodded, good. But that wasn't entirely true because later that night, curiosity cracked through my peace. What did she want? I didn't answer her that night or the next, but her message clung to my thoughts like damp air, heavy, unwanted, but impossible to ignore. What could she possibly want now? An apology, forgiveness, a chance to rewrite history. Jason stayed quiet about it. He respected my silence but watched me closely like he knew I was slowly unraveling. On the third day, I called Grace. She texted me, I said. Grace didn't sound surprised. I figured she might. Rachel doesn't like being cut off. She said she needed to talk. What do you think that means? I think it means she's lonely. Grace replied, and she probably didn't expect you to actually let her go. She didn't just hurt me. She tried to destroy my marriage, I know. Grace said gently. But sometimes people don't act out of hate, they act out of pain. Doesn't mean it's right. Just means they're not thinking like we expect. I thought about that. Thought about the nights Rachel had cried on my couch. The times she brought me tea when I had the flu. The laughter we once shared over terrible movies. Was it all a lie? Or was she broken long before she came into my home? Later that night, I sat with Jason at the kitchen table. He was going through the mail, casually sorting bills from junk. She texted again, I said. He froze for half a second, then resumed sorting. What did she say? She said she's in town, wants to meet, just for coffee. He didn't respond. I'm not sure if I want to. Jason finally looked at me. Why would you? I swallowed hard. Closure. Maybe? Or maybe I just want to see if she regrets anything. He sighed. I get that. But if you go, I don't want her coming near our life again. Not even a crack. I nodded. There won't be. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. I chose a spot neutral, public. No emotional weight. Rachel was already there when I arrived. She looked thinner, hair pulled back, dark circles under her eyes. A far cry from the confident woman who had once ruled my guest room like a queen. Claire, she said softly. I nodded, sitting across from her. Rachel. Silence hung between us until the server came. I ordered tea. She ordered nothing. I'm not here to make excuses. She started, eyes low. I know what I did, do you? I asked. My voice sharper than I meant. She winced. Yes? I crossed a line. Several. Actually, I said things I shouldn't have. I lied. I don't even know why anymore. You nearly ruined my marriage. No, she whispered, and I hate myself for it. I didn't speak. I was angry, she continued. At the world, at love, at being left. And then I came into your house and you had everything I didn't. A husband, stability, safety. That wasn't a reason to hurt me, I know, she said again. I wanted to feel powerful, important. Like I could still get someone's attention, even if it was yours. I stared at her, heart tight in my chest. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said. I needed you to know I'm sorry. I'm getting help. Therapy. I moved in with a friend who doesn't owe me anything. I'm trying to fix the parts of me that destroy things for a moment. I didn't know what to say. She looked so small in that booth. So different from the woman who smirked at my pain. I don't know if I believe you, I finally said. But I do believe you're broken. And I hope you get better. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I won't contact you again, she said. I promise. I just needed to say it out loud. Thank you for meeting me. She stood, walked out, didn't look back, and just like that she was gone. Again. But this time the air felt lighter. No closure is perfect, some wound scar. But at least now, the silence wasn't filled with questions. It was filled with choice. My choice. Rachel's exit didn't leave the kind of peace I expected. It wasn't like the movies, no sweeping sense of closure. No grand realization. It was quieter than that. A gentle loosening of the knot I hadn't realized had been strangling my heart. But the truth was, even with Rachel gone, the damage she left behind hadn't disappeared. I still found myself flinching at Jason's silence, still caught my breath. When his phone lit up, wondering if he was texting someone about me. Healing didn't come with an apology. It came in moments. Slow, hesitant steps like the night I sat beside Jason on the couch. And instead of changing the channel, he turned to me and said, "Do you think we're okay?" I paused. "Are we? I want to be," he said. That was the thing about us. Even at our worst, Jason never stopped choosing me. Even when Rachel's lies had set fire to everything we built, he stood in the ashes and waited to rebuild, and I had to learn to trust again, not just him, but myself, because a part of me had believed her. Not the cheating lie itself, but the implication that I was lacking, that I wasn't enough, that something in me could drive someone to doubt me so easily. That voice had echoed in my head longer than Rachel's accusation. So I started therapy. Told my story to someone trained to hold it gently. And I learned something important. Trauma doesn't only come from strangers. Sometimes it's the people we love most who hurt us in the most invisible ways. My therapist asked me to write a letter I'd never sent to Rachel, to myself, to whoever I needed. I wrote one to the version of me that let it happen, the Claire, who wanted so badly to be the good sister that she let her boundaries collapse, who offered love like a bandage, hoping it would fix someone else's bleeding. Not realizing it would leave her cut open in the process. I told her she deserved more. I told her she didn't fail. I told her forgiveness was for her, not for Rachel. Jason and I found rhythm again. It wasn't the same as before. But maybe that was okay. Maybe it was better. We became more intentional. Friday dinners, no phones at the table. Long walks on Sundays. We started saying what we meant. Instead of assuming the other just knew. Once, he took my hand at the grocery store and said, "Thank you for not giving up." I smiled. "Thank you for not believing a lie." He leaned in, whispered, "I never could." Not really. It was 6 months later when I saw Rachel's name again. Not on my phone, not in person, but in a tag post on Grace's Instagram. She was standing beside a woman smiling, a hand on her shoulder, and the caption read, "Proud of this brave girl, 6 months sober, 1 year in therapy. Healing isn't linear, but it's real." I stared at the screen, unsure how to feel. Proud, sad, relieved. All of it. Maybe I didn't like what Rachel had done, didn't forgive her fully. But I didn't wish her pain either. I turned off my phone and walked out into the sunlight. Jason was in the yard, fiddling with the new patio furniture. "Want coffee?" I asked. He grinned. "Only if it comes with that smile." I laughed, genuine. The kind of laugh I hadn't known I missed. And in that moment, I realized Rachel's lie hadn't destroyed us. It had cracked something, yes. But the light had come in through the cracks, and we were stronger for it. A few weeks after seeing that post, I got an email. No subject line, just her name, Rachel. I hovered my cursor over it for what felt like an hour. I didn't open it right away. Part of me didn't want to give her space in my peace. But another part, the part that still remembered our childhood whispers under the covers, our late-night kitchen dances. The girl I once protected, she needed to know what Rachel had to say. I clicked out. The message was short. "Claire, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to know I was broken when I hurt you. You didn't deserve what I said. What I did. I was angry at the world, at men, at myself. You were the safest target. And I hate that I made you pay for wounds that weren't yours. If I could take it back, I would. But since I can't, I'm learning how to be better. Whether or not you want me in your life again, I'll respect that. Just thank you for once letting me in, even if I didn't deserve it." Didn't cry. Not right away. But I felt something unravel. Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition of her humanness, of mine. I left the message unanswered, at least for now. Some wounds don't need to be reopened with words. Some are meant to quietly scar over their lessons, sealed in silence. Spring came like a warm breath after too long a winter. Jason and I went on our first real vacation in years. Just the two of us, no distractions, no lies hovering like ghosts. One morning, I sat on the hotel balcony watching him read a novel, his forehead scrunched, like he was solving a mystery, and I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Not for the pain we endured, but for the fact that we came through it together. We didn't just survive Rachel's betrayal, we reclaimed our truth from it. We laughed again, touched again without flinching, spoke without fear that love could be turned against us. And I learned to trust myself again, too. To say no without guilt. To set boundaries without apology. To love without sacrificing my peace. A month after we returned, I got another email. This one wasn't from Rachel. It was from Grace. "Hey Claire. Just wanted you to know that Rachel asked me to forward this picture. Said she knew she couldn't send it directly. She's making progress. Thought maybe you'd want to see. Take care." Attached was a single photo, Rachel, sitting on the floor of what looked like a community center, surrounded by other women, some smiling, some crying, all of them holding notebooks, healing circles. I assumed her face looked softer than I remembered. Tired, maybe, but honest. I stared at that picture for a long time. Then I quietly moved it into a folder labeled unsent forgiveness. Maybe one day I'd open it again. Maybe not. But either way, I had let the weight go. I had reclaimed my life. My marriage. My voice. 6 months passed. I hadn't spoken to Rachel since that email. But I thought about her sometimes. Not with anger anymore. Just with a kind of distant curiosity, like remembering a book you once loved. Before the ending betrayed you, Jason and I had started going to couples therapy again, not because we were broken, but because we wanted to keep growing. We talked about everything, not just what happened, but what we both needed now. It was there in that quiet, vulnerable space that Jason admitted something I hadn't expected. I believed her for about 10 minutes. I looked at him, stunned. His voice cracked, and it terrified me that for a second, I let someone else's words shake what I knew about you. I didn't interrupt. I just let him speak. He told me about the panic. The mental image of me with someone else. Not because he believed I would cheat, but because, deep down, he feared being left behind. He feared not being enough. I reached for his hand, tears building. He wasn't confessing weakness. He was offering me trust. That's the thing about rebuilding after betrayal. Not all wounds are visible. Some are silent echoes that show up in the quiet moments, asking, "Are we okay? Can I believe this again?" And when you say yes, not with words, but with presence, it means everything. One rainy Sunday, I got a text from my mom. "Family dinner next weekend. Rachel's coming. Just letting you know, no pressure." I stared at the screen. There was no guilt in her tone. No coaxing, just a heads up. I took a deep breath and replied, "Thanks for telling me, Jason, and I will think about it." The day of the dinner, I stood in front of the mirror far too long, not fussing with my appearance, just bracing. Jason appeared in the doorway. "You don't have to go," he said gently. "I know," I whispered, "but I think I want to." The drive was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. When we arrived, laughter spilled from the house. My mom's voice, my dad's old classic rock plates clinking. I spotted Rachel through the window. She was helping set the table. When she saw me walk in, she froze. Just for a second, then she nodded. Nothing dramatic. No tears. No rush to apologize. Just an acknowledgement that this was what it looked like to rebuild trust. Not dramatic speeches, but simply showing up, being decent, letting time do its slow work. Later that night, as I tucked my leftovers into the fridge, Jason wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "I think I am." And I was. Not because Rachel had changed, not because she'd apologized in just the right way, but because I had changed. I had learned that boundaries are not walls, that forgiveness is not forgetting, and that real love isn't just about who stays. It's about who shows up honestly. Who does the work to repair what's been broken. And most importantly, who you choose to be when everything you build gets shaken. I chose to be whole. I chose to stay soft, even when it would have been easier to harden. I chose to keep my heart open, not for her, but for me.